Sup, knuckleheads? It's Captain Dread here. This is my Nexus Raid Leader guide. This is based off of experience, so if you have any suggestions, put them down in the comments down below. To lead Nexus, you're going to need three things. You're going to need to be confident, you're going to need to be observant, and you're going to need to be decisive. I would definitely recommend, if this is your first time leading Nexus, just go ahead and lead it with guildies or friends. That way, you don't have to worry about getting flamed by your raid as much as you would with a public raid. So, step number one is gather your raid. I personally like to have 1 to 2 tanks in the raid, 5 to 7 healers, and then the rest can be any DPS, it doesn't really matter. I would recommend, however, that you only have a maximum of like 6 sorcerers, just because they drop FPS like nobody's business. So, in my opinion, the most effective way to go about recruiting your raid is, go through your friends list first, go through your guildies first, and then after that, go ahead and set up a looking for group listing in the LFG menu. And then from there, just make sure that you get all of the raid members that you need, so all of your healers, all of your DPS, that sort of thing. So while you are gathering your raid, it is essential that all of your healers have the necessary scrolls to invade Argonia or Gran if need be. Those scrolls are your Canstria scrolls and your Argon Corporates / Manias Core scrolls. You can buy your Canstria scrolls from Canstria, obviously, and your ACMC scrolls you can buy from any specialty merchant which reside in any of the smaller towns and none of the big cities. So 10 minutes before Nexus actually starts, or before the hour, whichever you prefer, the first nodes will spawn. So, as leader, it's very important that you have a couple of your healers scattered throughout the map at these first spawn points so that you can be summoned to the node as soon as it summons and so that everybody can get the Nexus quest. So at the 10-minute mark, you're going to see the notification, the Nexus opened. And this indicates that the first Nexus nodes have been spawned in all 3 regions. Here are the 5 first spawning points for ZF. Number 1 is the first priority. If the node is here, then definitely summon to this node. If 1 isn't there, then go to 2. If 2 and 1 aren't there, then go to 3, etc., etc. So, in this particular raid, the 3rd node was the first node in order to spawn, so I went ahead and summoned the raid here. And after you do that, you have 10 minutes until the mobs will start spawning in the nodes and Nexus actually begins. As I said before, as leader, it is extremely important to be observant and decisive when you're leading Nexus. I would highly recommend you check the node status in Argonia as well as ZF after the first nodes have spawned and after a couple minutes once all the raids have gotten to their appropriate node. The reason for this is because you want a balance of raids in ZF as well as Argonia. So if there are 120 people in Argonia, you want 120 people in ZF also. This is, however, Nexus, and it's never perfect, so it's always better to have more raids in ZF than there are raids in Argonia. That being said, if Argonia is sitting at like 70 people in their first node, and you notice in ZF there is a full node, and then a couple of the other surrounding nodes have raids in them, I would go ahead and move over to Argonia because you are more likely to get more nodes and it'll be a smoother experience for your raid. So, for a quick rule of thumb, if there are over 160 people in ZF and there are only 100 or so in the first node in Argonia, go ahead and move your raid to Argonia for the better Nexus experience. So, on to Nexus, finally. The format which many leaders use to direct their healers to the appropriate node, is as follows. As you can see, it has the summoner's name, the point of interest or the node that they will be going to, and when they should leave. I also think it's wise if you ask for confirmation from your summoners so that you know for sure that they know where to go and when they need to go there. Now, once you know how to direct your summoners where they need to go and when they need to be there, now you need to know which nodes you're going to be going for. Most of the time, the node that you will be going to will be the closest node to you, but for a general rule of thumb, I would suggest that you go in a clockwise fashion. The real secret to knowing which node to go to, though, is to be watching area chat, because good leaders will always post where they intend to go next. So if all of your raids are pointed towards the same node, then you will clear the node faster and everybody will make more money. I would also recommend for your first couple Nexuses as leader, just go ahead and send your healers out after phase 1, just so that you're not risking anything. There are a couple nodes that you are going to want to send your healer out earlier than phase 1, and these nodes are the ones that are going to be in different areas when you're actually invading the next area. So here I have a little bit of footage for you as the Argonia invader and the leader as well. So as you can see on the map, there are 2 nodes left in ZF, and I am directing my entire raid to the south node so that they can finish off ZF in its entirety. And here I am declining the summon and using my Canstrica scroll so that I can invade Argonia. For this invasion, I highly recommend that you send out your healer after this node, the second to last node in ZF, because there are different times that you have to take into account. So the loading screen going into a different area is longer. The healer's experience also has a factor in how fast he or she can get to that next node. So to make it easy, just go ahead and send the healer out after P3 on the second to last node in ZF. So, once again, to be a leader in Nexus, you need to be observant and decisive. The reason I say this is because something interesting happened in this Nexus. Usually, the Argonia raids will leave 2 nodes in southern Argonia for ZF to take, so the raids in ZF. And at this time, for whatever reason, they did not do that. So there was a miscommunication between raids, and Argonia went south for whatever reason. This messed up our raid's summon order and where I thought that we were going to go. So I sent our healer ahead to take the very last node in Argonia, and then I also sent another healer early to Gran to compensate for the lost time that we had in Argonia. Now, that may have been a lot of information at once, but it's not that difficult if you are constantly checking your map and watching where all of the raids are going and who's taking what nodes and where. So, the best advice that I can give you is check your map, check your map, check your map all the time. Check it after every single node. Make sure you know where the Argonia raids are, where the ZF raids are, and where they're going next. I'm just going to go ahead and let some footage roll while I give you a little bit more advice in the background. So when you're in Gran, this is the area that I call a complete scramble, because this is the area where the ZF raids and the Argonia raids converge into one, and it just becomes a huge mess. This is the time to put your prediction ability to the test. There are several troll nodes in Gran that you can either go to or you can ignore and go to nodes that already have mobs in them. My advice in Gran, if you're leading Nexus on the weekends, is to go to the closest open node as possible. And then, after you clear that node, go for the very last node, which you can see here in the southern area of Gran. That about wraps it up for the regular Nexus in the open world of Terra. After the last node is cleared in any of the areas, there's an NPC called a Nexus shard that spawns, and if you talk to this NPC and follow through with the conversation, it will summon you to the Nexus Traverse, which you can see right here. There are two things that you have to worry about in Traverse, or three, I guess. Number one is to make sure that the loot rules are set to distribute rare or above items randomly. You do not want 20 people rolling on a single item, or in this case, several items. It would take forever. Don't do it. Number two is to assign a main tank for Nexus Traverse. The main tank will take the right BAM in the second room, while all the DPS will go to the left. And then the DPS, after they finish off the left, they can go to the right. And then in the third room, the main tank will wall the dragon. And after the main tank walls the dragon, then let your DPS go ahead and burn the dragon as fast as possible. You are also going to want to make sure that all of the ads are killed as soon as possible, because they will kill your healers fairly quickly if your DPS ignore them. Hey man, thanks for checking out me Nexus guide. If you liked the video, let me know. Ja man.